Washington State Civil Rights Association Legislative Commentary. I'm your host, Corey, and today we're going to talk about three separate and unique proposed bills that have negative impacts on open carry in Washington State. These bills are House Bill 1234, Senate Bill 5038, and House Bill 1283. You are going to get a whole lot of my opinion in this video, so please hang on and be prepared. The bills are listed in the order that they were because they go from bad to worse to downright dangerous. Needless to say, I do not support any of them. House Bill 1234 bans the open carry of firearms in all state and local government buildings. This includes cities, municipalities, counties, and the state capitol. It also bans open carry on state capitol grounds. Senate Bill 5038 takes a different approach, banning the open carry of firearms on state capitol grounds and state legislative buildings, and also bans the open carry of firearms at any demonstration in public areas throughout the state, regardless of place. Therefore, this includes public areas of private property, such as parking lots and storefronts. House Bill 1283 goes completely off the rails, being so broadly open to interpretation that it effectively allows for people who feel uncomfortable with you openly carrying your firearm to call the police and have you arrested and charged with criminal mischief, which, since you're armed, is considered a Class C felony and you will forfeit your gun rights. These bills have a huge impact on the ability of individuals to defend themselves, their property, and businesses during violent protests, when the police have frankly been nowhere to be seen. This is not to mention that they plainly fly in the face of our constitutional right to keep and bear arms. Now, I think that some or all of this legislation can likely be attributed to the bad behavior of a few bad apples who engaged in an unsanctioned and arguably threatening event based on video shared on social media by those individuals at our own state capitol building last year. This has been further exacerbated by violent protests and rallies seen around the nation throughout the last year and here in Washington, and this is on all sides of the political spectrum. And honestly, this has been a hard year for everyone. Between global pandemic and other issues here at home in the U.S. and Washington State, people are struggling, desperate even, to meet their needs, their most basic needs, for them, their families, and people are feeling disenfranchised and not represented by our government officials. To be honest, though, with the state of the world that we're living in, I kind of get where they're coming from with this legislation. I don't agree with it one bit, don't get me wrong, but I understand it from a public safety perspective. And that's why it's good to assume positive intent when reading legislation, especially since I don't know everything, right? And I'm even wrong about things from time to time, believe it or not. Sometimes, though, even when viewing legislation through those lenses, it's clear that there really is no positive intent. But here, I can actually see it, for better or worse. Now, that being said, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, sometimes even my own. We need to be able to balance the good and the bad. And I get where people are at. I mean, I'm frustrated, I'm downright angry, but it's important for me to stop and think before I act. How I express my frustration and anger is extremely important, especially to those elected officials who I didn't vote for, but would like to see some form of representation from them anyway. My expression of that frustration and anger can be constructive or destructive, and let me tell you, I've been destructive more than once in my lifetime, but I try very hard to be constructive with my criticisms these days. Just for example, if I were to curse at my mother or father when I was a child, I was punished. And surely I was free to say what I wanted. However, there was a negative outcome from exercising that right. To be clear, I fully recognize everyone's right to petition our government and everyone's right to free speech. But just because that right exists doesn't mean that we are exempt from the consequences of our actions when we exercise that right. I believe personally that we all just need to be better about policing our own selves. Me policing myself and anybody policing their own self, and kind of looking out for the herd, and avoiding bad behavior wherever possible. Disagreements and spirited arguments are all fair game, for sure, as long as we remember that the person opposite of us in that argument or disagreement is still a human being, and they deserve some base amount of respect. And as we see here, small acts that have built up and compounded can have very large consequences, even if they are still a very minute percentage of the gun-owning population. In this case, bad behavior by a few has resulted in bad legislation for a lot. There are links below to review the text of each of these bills yourself, and please, please, please contact your representatives to ask them to oppose each and every one. Be sure to stay plugged in with Washington Civil Rights Association by visiting our website, joining the Legislative Action Group on Facebook, and following us on all of our social outlets. Thanks for your time, and have a great day.